Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary. Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day and you've been enjoying playing around with your letters and your spouse's letters and just understanding them on a really deep level. Today we have an awesome couple, but before I tell you about them, I just want to say I've been getting so many comments about wanting longer episodes, so I've been making longer episodes, but at the same time I've been getting tons of comments that people like the shorter episodes, so I'm going to be trying to giving everybody what they want at least some of the times. There'll be sometimes longer ones and sometimes shorter ones. But you should know, I do love your feedback, what you do like, what you don't like, questions, comments, guests, types of topics, whatever you want to see here, let me know and I'll see what I could do for you. If you don't ask, then I'll just never know and you'll never be able to get that. So without any further ado, today's couple is awesome. And the reason why I'm saying is they're awesome is because they work together, and I don't think that needs any other explanation of why they're so awesome. As a former NFL and MLB coach, and as a figure competitor, there's no surprise that Jim and Chantea Goetz own the company called Functionise, which uses science to figure out the most efficient way for you to be healthy and live your best every single day. So Jim and Chantea, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. You want to start by telling us a bit about yourself, like how long you're married for and exactly what you do.
Sure. Would you like to give it a whirl?
I'll tell them how long we've been married. You can tell them what we do.
Thank goodness.
Easy way out.
Right.
It pretty much is. We have been together for 20 years now. This month is our 15th wedding anniversary, coming up on the 24th. So we've been together quite a while.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Over the past few years, we have developed a company based on efficiency, all about human performance and tailoring it towards the busy, I put in quotes because everyone's got time to do really whatever they want to do, is whatever's a priority, the busy executive. So we have a background in working with high-level athletes and decided, you know what, they've become so much of a pain in the butt. Let's work with individuals who are out there every single day looking to crush life. A lot of individuals have been All-Americans at some times, athletes at some point, but as their bank account grows, so does their belly. And they're lacking the time with family, building a company, working their way up in a company, extra classes, whatever they're doing at the time. So we found ways through a lot of research journals and research and finding equipment to incorporate health, fitness to the highest level that you can possibly imagine. And we've been doing that together here.
Cool. What's your favorite tool and favorite technique?
I'm a biofeedback specialist, so that is my go-to. I'm a big fan of heart rate variability in terms of balancing the nervous system, reducing stress, improving sleep and performance. So that is my specialty within our organization. So it's an amazing thing for young children, teenagers, student athletes, and busy executives.
And my tool and technique, I mean, while there are so many wonderful tools, I actually like utilizing, I don't know if it's so much of a tool, but using blood work in order to really hone in on somebody's nutrition. So many people say, yep, I eat right. And I say, I mean, not to sound mean here, but okay, then why are you fat? Why are you not thinking clearly? Why are you getting sick all the time? So we can use blood work and not just labs like people are used to getting CBCs, but to actually hone in on, all right, what do you have an inflammatory process from that you don't even realize? What types of food? Chantea didn't realize that a diet one time of chicken, peanut butter, and chocolate was causing low-grade inflammation.
Not like Hershey's bars, but like unflavored raw cocoa powder.
So it's not even good.
But being able to hone in on specifics to actually quantify where you're at, where you're going, and how to best get there complements all the equipment, technology, techniques that we use for so many different people. And you can actually put on your Sherlock's home cap and really hone in on somebody and be very spot on specific.
I've never actually tried it, but I always found it really interesting. So maybe now I do have to go and get such an in-depth blood work to really see where I am.
Fascinating.
It's extremely fascinating. It's a game changer for all of our clients and ourselves too.
So cool. Now, how has being in the health industry affected your relationship?
That's a fun question because we do like different things. We were not always the best eaters. I mean, we binged on things back in the day. You know, we'd have our Taco Bells and our Dunkin' Donuts, and, you know, people think you've always been healthy, and it's really not the case. We've not always eaten the way we should eat and the way that we eat now. You know, we were typical 20-year-olds at one point, you know, so we remind people of that. You know, you're never too old to change a habit. You're never too old to get into something new. But because he is also my coach when I do my figure competitions, we've had to learn a whole new dynamic with communication. So there's Coach Jim, and then there's my husband Jim, and then there's partner work Jim.
Wow.
And so I won't get mad at husband Jim, but I may not like my coach, you know, in certain instances. So communication's been a big thing for us to realize what hat are we wearing when we're talking to the other person. And, you know, it's only to benefit in some way, shape, or form, whether we agree with it or not. What we say is said positively with something in mind.
Every husband knows if your wife asks you, do I look fat? You always say, no, you look beautiful. But if your athlete says that and there's something that she needs to work on, that's definitely been a learning process in how to get there right. Because if I don't tell the truth, then she's only going to suffer at her goal. And I don't want her to just get to her goal. I want her to exceed her wild expectations with her goal. So, you know, treating her like one of the pro athletes that I used to work with has been a learning process. But I think it's also brought us together to have that better open line of communication along the way with not just physical goals, but real life world goals that we have together to grow.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. What communication advice would you give?
Communication's about listening. It's not about talking. So that's the number one thing that I like to focus on. You know, my background in sports psychology, I listen a lot. You know, how you make progress is by listening to what someone has to say. You can tell people something until you're blue in the face, but it may not be what they need to hear because you're not hearing what it is that they asked you. So for us, we have to listen to each other and then formulate a process and a thought to go with it. So listen first, speak second.
I would also have to say brutal honesty is really essential. If you can't tell your partner something, then there's obviously a problem in what it is that you're doing or thinking. So that's something to then rethink yourself. But to literally put it out all on the table, if that is truly your better half, your puzzle piece that fits in, you should have this open flow of communication no matter what it may be. They may not like it. They may not like your idea, and hopefully you discuss that idea, obviously, before you go ahead and do it. I've learned don't buy a house without telling your significant other. Not a good idea. You should talk about those things.
No, and when something breaks, you know, don't be afraid to say, okay, well, I need my car fixed, or, you know, I lost my wedding ring.
Right.
You know, even the things that you don't want to have to say, it's better to say them than not.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard, but I think that once you create the space in your relationship, you do it. You show your partner that you could do it, and it's okay to do it. You're not going to get mad at them because they lost their ring. Then you show more things are okay, and then you could go on even deeper things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, it's just stuff. I mean, you might as well just burn some dollars, but at the same time, it's just stuff. As long as you got each other and you're on the same page with each other, that brings a lot more satisfaction than some object.
1000%. Yeah. Now, do you ever feel that you spend too much time together?
Ironically, no. People ask us that all the time. And they're like, how do you work together? How do you go home together? And we actually get on each other's nerves more when we're not around each other.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I don't know. We don't get on the same page with things.
I think it's like, if you got to get a metaphorical sense, I think it's more of the flow of energy.
Yep.
You two are on the same flow. And then like if she goes away to California, for instance, for a week, working on our PhD program here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we still talk, but we don't talk 24/7 anymore. And by the time she gets back, I mean, we're good, but it usually takes a day or two to just reintegrate, if you would. Or lately I've been traveling a lot for work here and we're good, but it takes that just day.
To get back into that rhythm.
Exactly.
Even if it's little things, you know, like raise the kids a certain way, a little bit more militant style. She's a little bit more laid back style. So when one of us gets back into flow, it takes a while to mesh into what we're doing again.
So how do you deal with challenges?
What challenge? I mean, basically, we just open lines of communication. I'm big on SMART goals and strategies. So creating, if there's a challenge, okay, well, what's the first step that we could take to overcome X, Y, or Z? And then, you know, what aspects do you focus on best? What aspects do I focus on best? So we use each other's strengths He loves to do speaking events. I'm better in person. So when we go out, we do networking events together, but then there's certain aspects where I thrive and there's certain aspects where he thrives. So it's playing up to each other's strengths to make the most out of any situation.
And also with obstacles to overcome, it's what's the goal in the first place? What were you striving for in the first place? There's going to be obstacles everywhere. Otherwise, it's not really a goal worth achieving. So, all right, something came up, COVID happened. All right, less people are coming in. How do we pivot, make people feel comfortable, do everything that we need to do properly, and continue to move forward with it? Or a kid decides to go to a neighbor's house, not tell us. All right, how do we overcome that and make sure that doesn't happen again the next time and go forward in a nurturing manner? So a lot of it is, as Chantea just said, the SMART goals, having goals, mini goals along the way with it. And to find a lot of those challenges are not so heavy.
Not daunting.
Yeah,
you break it down.
You don't have to be thinking about it, making it your thing for weeks at a time. You just hit it, move on.
Yeah, it's like a little thing, and then you show yourself that, okay, I did this little one. I know I could do the next one and something bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, like you said before, health affects everything in your life, especially your relationship. What can people start doing today at home to improve their health? Maybe they should first get their blood work done, but what else could they do?
I would say figure out what their goal is in the first place, because what they could do may not be what they're going to do. A lot of things are great ideas. All right, does somebody want to drop 10, 15, 50, 100 pounds? Does somebody want to gain weight, some muscle tone? Do they want to think better? Do they want to compete? Do they want to climb Mount Everest? What is it that they're looking to do? If they're just looking to have so-called general health, what does that even mean to them? They really need to break that down and figure that out so they have something to strive towards. Because if somebody just wants to lose 5 or 10 pounds, it may happen, it may not happen. When you lose 5 pounds, don't drink water for a day. You lose 5 pounds and congratulations, you hit your goal. Then you're going right back into it. So to really figure out, what does health mean to them and what do they want to achieve with their health and maintain that, that's got to be step one. And then now we can form a plan to actually get there, because a lot of people think it's really easy. And as somebody who's been to a doctor school and had decades of experience working at the professional level with elite athletes, there's a lot goes into it. I don't do my taxes for a reason. There's going to be an audit that happens. You don't go to court by yourself, but everyone thinks when it comes to their health and fitness that, I can do it myself, but they never actually achieve, and then they start getting down on themselves and it gets to be an ugly mess.
Well, setting the goal. Yeah, you have to set the goal in order to know which direction to go. When it comes to eating, well, what is your food full of? Take inventory. Look in your pantry. Is it full of high fructose corn syrup? Do you have any vegetables? Just little things that you can take notice of in your daily life. How much are you sleeping? Are you drinking water? These little questions people can answer to start to get them to think in a new direction. If you sit at home and you watch TV and you binge watch because you don't have anywhere to go, well, what would your life be like? And this is one of my favorite questions. What would my life be like if I did something else? If I went for a walk, if I went to bed 30 minutes earlier, if I had another glass of water, how would my life change? How do you want your life to change? There's these little questions just to get seeds planted and build that momentum of making smaller choices, one step at a time. And those lead to bigger choices and bigger results.
And there's tools that you can use to quantify and even have fun with it. Something as simple as a Fitbit. You can track your sleep. A Fitbit and an Oura Ring, which is a little bit more precise than the Fitbit. What is your sleep quality? How many hours you get? And as Chantea was saying, well, now you can track it. It's not something that you have to consciously think about day after day after day. You can see it. How many calories are you expending in a given day? Now you can see it, and we can figure out, are you overeating? You can use other apps, MyPlate, for instance, and track your food intake. You do that for a week or two. It can start to be fun, and you can actually get into it. Now you're developing a passion. Without passion, whether it's your fitness or anything in life, no one's going to begrudgingly do it. I don't want to paint the house unless I'm really passionate about painting the house. Same thing with somebody's body. If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to do it. So if you can use some of these tools, like home toys, but tools on the professional level, then you can start to quantify and actually see things, and then you can actually make those conscious decisions. As Chantea was saying, when it comes to the food, is there a lot of sugar in your food? Is it processed food? Are you eating in-grass finished beef? Are you eating garbage beef? Are you eating sockeye salmon or farm-raised salmon? These are little things that people can get into, and they're really small changes, but they go a long way.
Everyone knows not to eat sugar and not to eat so much cheeseburgers, but the question is if you actually go and do it. So getting those tools or asking the question that Chantea said over what would my life be like if, actually shows you that maybe you could go and do it, especially that question, because then you're visualizing your life and it's like, okay, that's not so hard. I could go and drink a bit more water. It's okay. And you could see yourself there and you could go and do that first step so that way you could go and take the next step and move even further. Now, what if you are working on your health, but your partner really isn't? How do you suggest that play out? Push your partner, let them be. What should you do?
There's really nothing you can do about it, to be honest. Health is an individual commitment. If somebody wants to change, they have to change for themselves. You can't make your partner change. You can't work out for your partner. You have to do what you can for you to be the best version of yourself. And eventually they'll catch on and they'll notice the changes in their spouse. And that might trigger something saying, you know what, they're doing so great. Maybe I could do that too. Or maybe I want to be better for my spouse or my partner, or my children. But you have to start and you have to do it for you. That is the number one thing I'm going to say.
The more that you push your partner, the more they're going to push back. And you're going to get the opposite results. I think if your partner starts to see, and here's the extreme, if you have abs and they have a nice big beer belly, eventually they're going to either get jealous and run away because thinking that you might be better suited for somebody else, or they're going to step up their game a little bit and say, all right, I need to be the best version of myself possible. As Chantea was pretty much saying there, just do you. We are both by no means perfect, but after, was it our third one?
Mm-hmm.
After our third child, Chantea kept on seeing for years and years that kind of built up all these beautiful women that have had babies on muscular development for her, or women's magazines at the grocery store shopping lines. And there were grocery store shopping lines, you just didn't swipe right. And why can't I do that? And eventually I kind of got sick and tired of it and said, then do it. No one's stopping you but you. I suggested, why don't you come up with goals? I don't care what they are, just some sort of goal. Take a week or two. There's no end day that you have to have this set by. About a week later, she comes to me and says, I want to step on stage. And I said, okay, different type of goal than I ever thought about. I'll get into theater. Sure, cool. We'll do acting. I'll be there and support you. I'll do your lines with you. She said, no, silly. Compete. I want to be in a figure competition. So, all right, my wife's going to get up in a bikini in front of all these people, and she better look her best of the best. So instead of just jumping into it 100%, so we need to build habits. We can't just say, you do 4 hours in the gym every day until this competition. So I decided, as her coach, who she promptly hired me on, which was humbling and honoring, let's start in the play area. Just doing calisthenics, bodyweight stuff. Can you do 5 minutes a day this week? Just 5 minutes. I'm not asking you any more. Okay, I can do that. She did 5 minutes, progressed to 7 minutes, progressed to 12 minutes, progressed to we need some bands and some balls and some light weights. And before I know it, we're at 20 minutes. And she comes to me and says, all right, I need to actually hit some iron. I need to lift some weights. That progressed again. It took 14 months pretty much from the time that you were in the play area at 5 minutes a day to the time she stepped on stage for the first time and brought home 3 amazing trophies.
Wow.
It was about developing those habits. And I think if anybody, especially going back to your question, a spouse is going to get into it, they can't just do it overnight. These habits have to be made. So if you're the person who's bringing the food home, you don't bring the food home for them, the Chips Ahoy cookies. Use Quest cookies and start buying Quest cookies instead. All these little changes around the house, the way you cook. What they do out of the house is on them, but at least you can control what's going on in the house. And they're going to see your goals and what you're doing and your successes. And slowly but surely, I found it more time than not. Eventually, it may be a few weeks, it may be many months, it could be a year. The partner eventually is going to start. They may not get to what you want, but hey, your partner, you love them till death do you part, hopefully, and they're going to start to become better versions than they started out to be. So these are little things. Just do you, be the best version of you possible, and develop those habits for you, and they'll come along. They really will. They'll start to get an interest.
So many people they'll do bodybuilding, they'll do anything, and they just go right into it. They go really hard in the beginning, and after 2-3 months, they just lose it. But if you build it up slowly and you create habits, then it will last with you, hopefully, for many, many years to come.
It's routine. Absolutely. It's just part of your daily habits.
I find a lot of individuals, they'll do the crash diets. So someone will get really pissed off if they don't lose 20, 30 pounds in month 1. And when we're having the one-on-one intake, quantifying everything on our Fit3D, medical intake, all this stuff that's necessary, the question's always asked, would you like to drop 20 pounds in a week or 2? Chances are you'll gain that back and then some. Or shall we do this long and steady, an average of 1 to 2 pounds a week? Some weeks you may not lose anything, some weeks you may lose 4 or 5, but you're going to all average it out. Everybody always says that right answer, I want to make a lifestyle. I want to really take my time with it and do this right. Well, everyone gets ticked off. I didn't lose 20 pounds this month. Yeah, you lost 12. phenomenal. You know, we were supposed to lose at most 10. You lost 12. This is great news. They start to beat themselves up and get down on themselves. The goals are unrealistic. Habits haven't been formed yet, but really you got to break it down. Small steps. Rome wasn't built overnight, and it didn't crumble overnight either. So if the habits are formed slowly but surely over time with the right guidance and the right accountability and the right perseverance, then even if you have a slip up from time to time, you go out and have a couple pieces of pizza, a glass of wine or two, you go to a birthday weekend or whatever it may be, it's not the end of the world. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think that's good for people to hear, because sometimes it's like, okay, so that means I'm never going to be able to have any more ice cream or cake. But no, yeah,
absolutely. Have some ice cream. Have a scoop here or there, and the best
balance. It's moderation, not creating and going back to old habits. Yes, you have one ice cream. You're at your kid's birthday. You want to have a piece of cake with them. Well, don't eat more cake the next day and the day after that. You know, it's that one day. Let yourself enjoy that day. It doesn't have to continue on past that.
And one of the great things nowadays is the fact there's so many alternatives to the foods that we're used to eating. There's so many delicious other ice creams that a palate can easily be developed for. What's that new ice cream that Rebel ice cream, for instance? I like the brand Rebel ice cream. It tastes good to me. Pint here or there. The kids have started to actually like Rebel ice cream. Daddy, can we have Daddy's ice cream? What's the other cereal that we started getting?
Magic
Spoons. Oh my goodness. It's worth $10 a box. But I'd rather the kids eat that and us eat that than to be having some sugary alternative for that. So there's so many alternatives, so many different ways to prepare food that it's amazing. People think, oh, I'm missing out. I need a cheat day just so I can feel normal again. If you're eating, I mean, I have 2 pounds of bacon every single Sunday morning with a cup of coffee, and I'm happy as could be. I'm really not struggling personally when it comes to food, and I don't think anybody else should be struggling when it comes to their palate and with that little dopamine rush that they want to get from foods from time to time. So yeah, just learning the alternatives. There's so many alternatives out there that they can eat and do much better with.
Are your kids health freaks also?
They're kids, so
At times.
They enjoy probably foods that most adults wouldn't enjoy. Our children love salmon, all 3 of them, and they have for a very long time. They eat their vegetables, they eat Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cooked raw vegetables. You know, we're very fortunate because they've been introduced to that at a very young age. They go to a birthday party, they're going to eat all the ice cream and pizza. Of course they are. You know, it's there. But at home, you know, they don't feel deprived. You know, we get healthier chocolates, you know, so they have options. Instead, they like the healthier ice creams. I think they're well balanced. If they have options, and our oldest especially, if she's offered something, you know, a cupcake or a cookie, she has no issue saying no thank you.
Right.
You know, our kids don't drink sodas anywhere. So if someone offers them, they're very easy to say no thank you. They'll get water, you know, they drink seltzer water. We've tried to create the habits, you know, with them. I mean, our children are 5, 7, and 12, soon to be 8 and 13.
I'm pretty happy with how far they've come and the knowledge that they have. They've been leeches. And our oldest actually, I mean, gotta be careful-ish a little bit when she's in class because she is out schooling her teachers with a lot of things. I think a teacher
with parents like you.
I mean, she was educating her teacher on why you don't eat carbs. And then she's actually not just saying you don't need it. She's actually giving her the reasons behind it why, which her teacher apparently is dumbfounded on that. I think doing her own research that night.
Children pay attention to more than you ever know they do.
Right.
And the habits that you create and that you show them are what they're going to gravitate towards. So if you want to make changes for yourself, your children are going to make changes inadvertently. They're going to do it on their own as well. One thing that I've never understood is a parent will eat really well and then, you know, go and take their kids to McDonald's. And our children have never been to McDonald's. They don't do fast food, and they won't under our guidance. You know, if you don't want to eat that yourself, don't feed it to your children. You want them to be able to have the same values that you hold for yourself. Just because they're little doesn't mean they need junk. They will do much better in school and sports and just mentality, emotional regulation if they eat healthier foods. And I think parents oftentimes times don't take them into consideration.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think it's also not only that, but it's similar to, like you said, when you don't want to change your partner and how they're eating and stuff. You don't want to all of a sudden deprive your children from things and like tell them how they should eat, but rather, just like you said, change the way you're eating and then they'll follow suit.
Exactly. And if you're the one buying the groceries, again, what are you making for your kids and what are you leaving around the house for them to snack on? And what are you showing them that you're snacking on? Because chances are, well, at least in our house, every one of my kids, our kids here, they, every time daddy's eating something, daddy, can I have some? Daddy, can I have some? I know whatever I take out, I'm going to eat about this much of it because they're going to gank the rest of it. Doesn't matter what it is. So the more that they are open and experience the new things that they're getting to eat, the more they're going to gravitate to it when you're not around.
My kids will grab like a whole pepper and eat it like an apple or a tomato. They gravitate towards that as opposed, to grabbing, Twinkies or something.
Our parents' dream.
Is it not to say that, if they had someone gave my kid a Snickers bar that they wouldn't probably eat it, but it's not what they would reach for.
Right. And like we said, again, that it depends. If you have it only sometimes, then it's okay. Now, how does food and health affect emotional regulation?
Oh, big time.
Hit this one up.
So we can go from it in two aspects. One of my favorite things is to show people an MRI of the brain. So if you have someone that's on cocaine and you take an MRI of somebody that has just had sugar, the exact same parts of the brain light up. It stimulates that pleasure receptors, which creates these sugar highs, and then you have these crazy lows. So you don't have a balanced system, and children are extremely susceptible to these ebbs and flows, these highs and lows based on what they're eating. So when they are throwing their temper tantrums because they just ate 50 grams of sugar between their orange juice and their yogurt, which people think are healthy, give my kid yogurt that's full of 40 grams of sugar, and I'm going to give them orange juice and maybe an applesauce. They've overloaded their system to where their brain can't process everything. And if the brain's not regulated, the body's not regulated. If they're not drinking water to help flush all these things through, they go in these crazy panics. The body just doesn't have the ability to regulate all the stuff pumping through their body in that moment. We notice if our kids have been on the computer too long, because now everybody's doing virtual learning. If they're not drinking enough water, they get really cranky. It sucks the life out of the brain and it doesn't allow for proper cognitive function. Water is an essential component. We all need it. We also need time away from our computers, our phones, our tablets, our Xboxes, everything that's inundating our senses that are becoming overloaded, that these children don't have the communication skills, for one, to be able to say anything that's wrong with them. They just yell and scream and hopefully get their way because they don't know how to talk about it.
Non-ionizing radiation in electric devices really plays a huge role in calcium channels in the body, the cell signal firing. So when we're, lack of a better term, really screwing with it by being around all the electronic devices, whether you're a little kid, whether you're an older adult, we're going to be affecting the firing of the nerves in the brain and through the rest of the body big time. So by decompressing, unplugging, one of the great things that we can do, go barefoot, called earthing. It's becoming more and more. I did a study on it when I was in clinic and everyone's laughing at me. That's the silliest thing in the world. What's wrong with you? And I said, no, here's some preliminary research studies. I hooked myself up to an ohms reader and show that there actually is a little fluctuation in resistance from the earth and shows that it does reprogram the body. Literally harmonizes your body to that frequency of the earth, not the frequencies that are bombarding you with electromagnetic devices such as phones, computers, tablets, etc. Also, when it comes to sugar, there's a pretty cool documentary out called That Sugar Movie on Netflix, I believe it's still on, where a guy goes and he literally buys so-called healthy food and gets on a diet of just healthy food. But the amount of sugar in there is so great that people think that they're eating healthy, but they're actually getting unhealthy, and his labs show it. His body fat starts to go out a little bit more as well. So when sugar goes up, insulin also is raised. They're directly proportional to one another. When insulin goes up, you retain body fat. That's why a low carb and being in ketosis is so great for body fat reduction, because your body's insulin stays low, so the body's going to turn to another source of fuel. In this case, when there's no glucose, keto bodies. When individuals are raising their blood sugar so much, it will also crash and go below your baseline fine. When it crashes, you go into a state of hypoglycemia. A lot of people then run to some other sugary source. And what does that sugary source do? It just keeps us in this terrible loop of raising insulin levels, crashing, raising, crashing, and we feel like garbage. So no, you don't need to go and run for some more sugar to regulate your blood sugar levels. You got to stop eating sugar in the first place. Your body will regulate itself. You may feel like garbage for a few days, but you did that to yourself in the first place. It's literally a self-detox, for lack of a better term, process to regulate your hormone levels. And the levels, we've done so much research around here as well, impact other hormones: testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, thyroid function, liver function, kidney function, all of this.
Affects brain function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, people think they're eating healthy and they're not, and that is
I
just,
once thought that organic Pop-Tarts were healthy because it said organic as well.
that was their goal, and they got you.
I've never been wrong about anything else in my life. That was the one thing, and I'll never admit to anything else.
Okay, now last question. What's the best relationship advice you could give to our listeners?
Spend time with each other.
I don't know if everyone could afford to do it like you do.
You don't have to spend every moment with each other, but you have to make each other a priority in your life.
Mhm.
You know, whether it's an at-home date night, whether it's taking a walk around the block for an hour, you know, whether it's putting a puzzle, maybe it's cooking dinner together, you know.
Healthy dinner, yeah.
Right. You have to spend some one-on-one time. It's not always easy, especially with 3 kids, you know, that all want attention. You know, we come home from work and, you know, mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy. And we spend the time with them, but creating routines. So if you send your kids to bed at a certain time, you know, if they're younger, and then you have an hour at the end of the day, don't go separate. It doesn't have to be every night. You know, say, okay, maybe Wednesday night, there's like something you both enjoy watching, you know, and you spend, that's your time together. If that's an activity you enjoy doing, you want to work out together. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do that help us.
I'm going to say you got to put your partner first, above everything. I mean, if you are fortunate enough to have children, you put the children first. The children always come first, and that's just what you do. You don't get a badge, you don't get a trophy at the end of the day. You probably get some gray hairs and some wrinkles, but it's just what you do. You're the parent. You're supposed to do that. Nothing changes with your partner. In my case, you know, I strive to put Chantea and her needs first, and entrust that she does the same for me. Because when you put the other person first and you'll see them in a different light. To me, there's a far more appreciation for her by putting her first above all. It is about her, and as long as the other individual, and you don't do it to get something back, hopefully you have that relationship where there is that simpatico, harmonious energy, where you put her first, he puts you first, and you just keep on building each other in this positivity, and you'll find that you're going to be like you just met each other. 20 years later, you just caught each other's eye for the very first time, can't keep each other's hands off of each other, and they're just awesome and amazing, and you just see each other in that light. And that has not always been the case. There's been a lot of learning and understanding, but I got to say, over the past few years, it's something I've personally learned, and I've never been happier in a relationship in my life because of that.
Wow, well, you guys really are an awesome couple. You could tell it was really worked on, but you came so far and are a real inspiration. And if you want to learn more about this amazing couple and get your life in order, get your health in order, and everything all aligned, go to functionise.com, and Facebook and Instagram, same thing. Functionise, the links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Jim and Chantea. This was really informative and just so awesome.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been fun.
It sure was. Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.